Autumn 1985. On the new King's Road in Fulham, the western stretch of King's Road running toward Parsons Green, a furniture shop opens. The proprietor is 23 years old. He is known by the courtesy title Viscount Linley, eldest son of the first Earl of Snowdon. His mother is Princess Margaret. His aunt is the Queen of the United Kingdom. He has no royal duties by his own decision, and he has the company incorporation papers to prove the decision was made in writing. David Linley Furniture Limited, registered at Company's House on 26 April 1985. The launch event for the business had taken place some months earlier at Christie's auction house on King Street, St. James's, a detail Christie's would cite 20 years later in a corporate press release as a piece of shared history. But the working address was on the new King's Road, and before that, since 1982, in a workshop in Dorking, Surrey. He had been at this for 3 years before he had a shop window to show for it. The Linley Company's own account of those founding years names what was unusual plainly. The British public had never seen a member of the royal family in a vocation, making with their own hands and serving customers. In the 1980s, it says, that was revolutionary. The story that has attached itself most persistently to David Armstrong-Jones is that his father, the photographer Tony Armstrong-Jones, first Earl of Snowdon, never forgave him for it. The evidence runs the other way entirely. What survives the evidence is 40 years of deliberate, documented professional work. The carpenter, the chairman, the brother. The strategy wasn't accidental, and it wasn't cheap, but it was consistent. And at 64, it's still running. David Albert Charles Armstrong-Jones was born on 3 November 1961 at Clarence House. He was the grandson of King George VI and fifth in the line of succession to the British throne at birth. His father, Tony, had arrived at the royal family by an unconventional route, Eton and then Cambridge, where he failed his second-year exams and departed without a degree, before building one of the most celebrated photographic careers of his generation. More than 280 of Tony's photographs are in the permanent collections of the National Portrait Gallery. He co-designed the Snowdon Aviary at London Zoo in 1963 with Frank Newby and Cedric Price. He held a patent for an electric wheelchair, granted in 1971. He was an honorary fellow of the Royal Photographic Society and a royal designer for industry. He was, in short, a man who made things professionally, outside conventional establishment structures, for his entire working life. He sent his son not to Gordonston, where Prince Charles had spent famously miserable years, and not to Eton, where Tony had gone and left early, but to Bedales School in Hampshire, progressive, co-educational, founded as a deliberate alternative to the conventional English boarding school, with arts and crafts at the center of its stated curriculum. Bedales placed woodwork not as a supplement, but as part of what the school itself described as the established Bedales tradition. His sister, Sarah, born in 1964, also attended Bedales. Both children of the same parents at the same school. The pattern wasn't accidental. David left Bedales around 1980 and enrolled at Parnham College in Beaminster, Dorset. Parnham was John Makepeace's school for craftsmen in wood, founded at Parnham House in 1977, a 2-year vocational program in furniture design and making at the top level of technical and creative skill. The Design Museum later described Parnham as a school that changed the face of contemporary design. The program's alumni eventually included the industrial designer Konstantin Gurchik and the furniture maker Sean Sutcliffe. The Chicago Tribune, writing in 1993, confirmed the dates. From 1980 to 1982, David studied under Makepeace at Parnham House. From 1982, he worked in Dorking. 3 years in a workshop before a shop. Then the New King's Road in 1985. Then, in 1993, the flagship showroom at 60 Pimlico Road, Belgravia, a building that had previously housed the Chelsea Bun House, where the bun was first made, a detail David would later offer as evidence that the street had form. The Pimlico Road showroom is still there. It opens Monday to Saturday. The products of the first years were demanding to build. A 1988 UPI profile described the marquetry screens coming out of the workshop, 2,000 pieces of 18 different woods in each. The bespoke commissions grew to match the clientele. A sycamore cabinet for Elton John, designed to house his 250 pairs of glasses. A 60-foot conference table for the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Interior schemes for clients including Mick Jagger, Oprah Winfrey, Carolina Herrera, and Joe Malone. The firm was documented commercially in ways that a hobby isn't. When the crash hit, the accounts moved nearly £1 million into the red. David's salary that year was £173,500, confirmed by Companies House filings. He eventually borrowed from the company by causing it to make loans, acquiring around £3 million in debts, resolved in 2012 by the sale of controlling shares for £4 million, through which he lost formal control of the business. 2 peer-reviewed academic papers treated the Linley firm as a commercial case study, one in the International Journal of Retail and Distribution Management in 2006, one in the International Journal of New Product Development. The researchers interviewed the staff and found in their published conclusions no divergence of opinion about the business model. Academic business journals don't study vanity projects. By 1993, the first book appeared, Classical Furniture, through Harry N. Abrams in New York. By 1996, the second, Extraordinary Furniture, also Abrams, was being toured in the United States. The Los Angeles Times covered a stop at the LA County Museum of Art. He was lecturing at the Smithsonian in Washington, the Art Institute of Chicago, the Dallas Museum of Art. A former director of the V&A told him that Linley pieces were the antiques of the future. He quoted it, without apparent irony. The Christie's connection wasn't coincidental. The business had launched at Christie's King Street 20 years before David joined the board. He became a non-executive director of Christie's International in September 2005. On the 10 March 2006, Christie's issued a press release announcing his appointment as chairman of Christie's UK. From the 1st December of that year, he assumed what the press release described as the full-time role of chairman, responsible for leading the chairman's office in the United Kingdom and developing business and client relationships domestically and internationally. His own statement: Christie's is an organization whose passion for the unique and the beautiful holds much in common with his personal values and with those of his own company, Linley. The principal UK sale rooms were on King Street, St. James's. The King Street rooms, where the most significant decorative arts and furniture collections come to market. His professional expertise landed directly in the auction house's largest categories. The carpenter wasn't a stranger in the sale room. He held the UK chairmanship for 9 years. In June 2015, Christie's promoted him to honorary chairman for the AMERI region, Europe, the Middle East, Russia, and India. The UK chairman's office passed to Orlando Rock. In the 2015 announcement, David described what 9 years of client work had shown him. Collectors who had become truly global, moving across categories, acquiring across markets. He had been, as he put it, an ambassador. In an interview with the cultural journalist Alan Elkan in 2018, he described Christie's as his base. Almost all of it, he said when asked about his time commitment. It's my base. I have an office there. The Tatler, marking his 64th birthday in November 2025, described him as working closely with King Charles at the King's Foundation and as continuing in his Christie's honorary role. Serena Stanhope arrived in the working life by a piece of professional logic. Her father, Charles Stanhope, then styled Viscount Petersham, whose London landholdings were reported at upwards of £250 million, commissioned David to make a walnut dining table for his Chelsea house. The furniture brought the furniture maker to the client's daughter. Serena was born 1st March 1970 in Limerick, Ireland. She had attended St. Mary's School in Wantage. On 8 October 1993, David Armstrong-Jones, Viscount Linley, aged 31, married the Honourable Serena Elaine Stanhope, aged 23, at St. Margaret's Church, Westminster, the Anglican church beside Westminster Abbey, used for high-profile aristocratic weddings for centuries. 650 guests attended: the Queen Mother, Princess Diana, the Aga Khan, King Constantine II of Greece, and Elton John. Serena wore a silk and tulle gown by Bruce Robbins and the lotus flower tiara, borrowed from Princess Margaret, whose own 1960 Hartnell bridal look the dress deliberately echoed. They left for the reception in a vintage car, watched by an estimated 5,000 people from the street. 2 children: Charles Patrick Inigo Armstrong-Jones, born 1 July 1999 at the Portland Hospital in London, named partly after his cousin Prince Charles, and later to become Viscount Linley. Lady Margarita Elizabeth Rose Elaine Armstrong-Jones, born 14 May 2002, named partly after her grandmother, Princess Margaret. In 2011, Margarita served as a bridesmaid at the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton. From 2000 to 2002, the family had lived at Kensington Palace to be close to Princess Margaret in her declining health. On 8 April 2002, David stood vigil at the lying-in state of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, one of 4 royals who, in a ceremony last performed for George V in 1936, stood guard at the bier. Tony Armstrong-Jones, 1st Earl of Snowdon, died on 13 January 2017 at his home in Kensington, aged 86. His funeral was held at St. Baglan's Church in Llanfaglan, near Carnarvon, Wales, where he is buried in the family plot. David inherited the earldom, becoming the 2nd Earl of Snowdon. His son Charles simultaneously became Viscount Linley, the same courtesy title David had carried since birth. The question the popular narrative asks about Tony and the furniture career has a documentary answer. David, speaking to Alan Elkan in 2018, "My father repaired his Aston Martin car and Triumph motorbike himself, so I come from a 'let's see if we can mend it' attitude, and then 'let's see if we can make something.' He encouraged me to make toys, and we were always making something in the house." On his parents' response to the career choice specifically, "Both parents supported everything I did, and my grandmother, the Queen Mother, came to my shop when she was 93. In a separate interview published by the Gentleman's Journal, he was plainer still. "My parents were just thrilled I made a career out of this." In 1996, he told the Los Angeles Times that his mother and grandmother had donated 2 pieces of equipment to the workshop and commissioned pieces from him. Princess Margaret, reportedly asked by Prime Minister Jim Callaghan why her son had become a carpenter, gave the answer that has since stuck: Christ was a carpenter. Tony Armstrong-Jones had failed his Cambridge exams, built a photographic career from nothing, designed a public aviary, and received a patent for an accessibility device. His own school report, which David quoted in the 2018 interview, had concluded that he may be good at something, but it's nothing we teach here. A man who left the conventional establishment route by that margin wasn't likely to spend 30 years resenting a son who took a similar route more deliberately. The title, "His Father Couldn't Forgive Him for It," is the tabloid version of the story, the sentence that sounds right without the evidence. The record describes a father who was thrilled. What the record does contain, carefully, is the marriage's end. Serena Armstrong-Jones, Countess of Snowdon, was by every public account a measured and private presence through 26 years. She ran her own shop in Chelsea, Serena Linley Provence, selling French lavender products until it closed in 2014. The press treated her with consistent restraint. A friend of David's, quoted in the Daily Mail at the time of the announcement, described what had happened in structural terms rather than personal ones. David was endlessly traveling for Christie's, the hardest-working royal, though not for the royal family. Serena spent most of her time in Gloucestershire. He lived in Kensington. It's been a slow drift apart. I think the impetus for the split is with her, but she is very sad about it. In February 2020, a joint statement was issued. Its exact wording: the Earl and Countess of Snowdon have amicably agreed that their marriage has come to an end and that they shall be divorced. They ask that the press respect their privacy and that of their family. That was the full text. Nothing followed. No personal interviews, no memoir passages, no counter-narrative from either side. In the comments on YouTube videos covering the separation, the audience wrote its own reading. One very stoic and sensible lady who deserved more love from her husband. Others pushed further, attributing the cause to a private question about David's sexuality that has circulated in audience discussion for years. Comments citing bisexuality as the cause appear repeatedly in public threads on competitor channels. Those comments document what audiences believe. The private cause isn't on the public record, and asserting it as fact would be stating more than any documentary source supports. What can be stated is structural. A marriage built on shared connection to the arts, to beautiful things, to the world of careful making, strained apart by the particular restlessness the work required. The Snowdon temperament, work first and most fully alive in professional motion, carries a cost for the people who live alongside it. The friends named it plainly. The drift was slow, and it was real. As of his 64th birthday in November 2025, David Armstrong-Jones was still working. Companies House recorded his resignation from the firm's directorships in November 2022. The brand he founded continuing under professional management, the Pimlico Road showroom still open, bespoke commissions still running. The Christie's honorary role continued. In 2023, he co-authored a book titled Craft Britain, Why Making Matters, with Helen Chislett, published by DH Editions, his most recent publication, 30 years after classical furniture. The King's Foundation vice presidency continued. Isabelle de la Bruyere, an art world figure who had previously been a senior international director at Christie's, appeared alongside him at the Chelsea Flower Show in May 2025. In June 2025, they were photographed in the royal enclosure at Ascot. His sister, Lady Sarah Chatto, born 1st May 1964, also from Bedales, a professional painter who trained at Camberwell School of Art, does not undertake official royal duties and has been beside David at every family event and every funeral since their mother died in 2002. Both children of Margaret and Tony made the same structural choice: arts training, professional career, no official schedule. David's version was noisier, more commercially tested, more publicly scrutinized. A business that accumulated £3 million in debt and survived. A marriage that lasted 26 years and didn't. An earldom received at 55, unasked for. The strategy was the same as Sarah's, executed through a different door, and the costs along the way were paid, not avoided. He was 23 years old in the autumn of 1985, and he opened a furniture shop in southwest London and let the rest of the British royal family get on with their official lives without him. He made marquetry screens from 2,000 pieces of 18 different woods, and cabinets for famous men's offices, and a table long enough to seat the Metropolitan Museum's board. And the firm grew, and the showroom moved to Belgravia, and the books appeared in New York, and the academic journals took the company apart to see how it worked. He married a wife the press didn't learn to gossip about. He chaired the King Street rooms. He inherited an earldom. He hasn't given an interview about the divorce. He hasn't given an interview about his mother. He has gone on making furniture. He has gone on chairing the auction rooms. The case is the carpenter. The case is the chairman. The case is the brother. If you want more stories like this one, subscribe. It helps, and there is always more to prove.